Hello, Alexandra. I'm delighted to be having a third chat with you, yourself and Bunky there. I'm with Steve Evans again.
I'm so delighted to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you for having my literary family with me today.
Hey,
Bunky, the Bunky, and all of them.
yeah, hey, it's a pleasure to speak to you again. I've missed Bunky so much, but no, in all seriousness, how is life in Dublin, Poland? And before we get into your chat, how is are you feeling the effects of the war between Russia and Ukraine? Is it having an adverse effect on the community in your country? Just briefly explain a bit about that.
Thank you so much. Actually, in my community, and mainly I spend a lot of time in this students kind of community. I think that uh, we are doing well because we are all supporting each other. There are students of from Poland, from Ukraine, and we are really cooperating. And this is what I find really beautiful. So yeah, but of course we are hoping that things will be back to normal as soon as possible, and we really hope for that. But the community is beautiful, so I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of the students from Poland, from Ukraine here, and it's a pleasure to. I spend a lot of time with them daily. I just came back home from classes, so I think everything's going well in this respect.
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay, that's encouraging to hear. Anyway, so before we go on to your recent project, your women's literary portraits in the Victorian, Neo-Victorian novel, and all that, tell us a little bit about Bunky and the Worms, your brilliant children's book, and it's won some fantastic awards since our last chat, I believe. So just fill us in. What's gone on? Come on, tell us more.
Thank you so much. So the whole prize goes to Bunky, of course, and his friends. And actually, I'm so delighted and honored that this happened in my life as an author, as a person. So recently, Bunky in 2021, so recently, received the title of the Book of the Year. Actually, it happened in 2022, but it was Book of the Year 2021. And then the Reader's Choice Book of the Year Excellence Award from Brooke Chrysalis Project. These awards come from Brooke Chrysalis Project. And then in October 2022, we had the pleasure of participating in the Book Fest, this beautiful festival of literature lovers, and we were watching online with Bunkies. And Bunky and the Walms received the second place for children's chapter book, which came as such a wonderful surprise to me. I was really honored to receive that. I mean, it's a true honor and pleasure. I couldn't believe it, but I'm so happy. And then Bunky and the Walms received the Outstanding Creator Award too in 2022. So I think it's so beautiful. I'm so grateful for that.
Super.
I'm so happy that Bunky is somehow in the heart of the readers, like a friend. I hope that.
Brilliant. How's work coming on part two, Bunky and the Worms? Are you working on the sequel?
Yeah. Of course, yes. Thank you so much. So the sequel was in my plans even from the beginning when I was writing the first part of Bunky's adventures, because I knew that Bunky had to be a complete character, and this could happen with the sequel. And I'm writing the sequel. I'm really writing it, and actually I'm really coming to the end of the sequel. But the last month was really busy, and I didn't want to hurry it. Like I didn't want to write the final part, which I exactly know what will happen. Bunky always tells me a little bit more how it should be, but I know exactly what should happen, how the part should develop, and how it should be completed. But I don't want to rush it, so I just stopped for a while, and I'm going to pick it up where we stopped with Bunky around 2 weeks ago. So we had this 2 week break from writing, and we'll just continue during these days. So I'm very excited about it. And
Yeah,
Bunky is he will be telling me what to write.
Brilliant.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Moving on then. So you teach literature at the Maria Curie University, and you're an assistant professor. Brilliant. And you specialise in UK Victorian literature. Now, your latest book is a product of your research. And do you use that as teaching material, do you? Do you use that as part of your everyday life?
Thank you so much. So this is actually the book. It arrived. I received a copy last week from my father because my office copy had not arrived yet. So actually this book was published in February, so I haven't got much chance to use it in the classroom yet. But the material from the book is based on my research, which lasted almost 10 years. And I use it in the classroom on a daily basis, like whatever I've learned or I would like to share with my students. I try to share it on a daily basis, and now it's here, but it's not even the whole of it, but I always share my ideas in the classroom. Currently, this semester, I teach 17th and 18th century literature, which is also fascinating, and probably next year I will share more with my students if they, because I know that some students love Victorian and Neo-Victorian novel, so I would be honored to do that. And so it's a kind of friend book.
Yeah.
From February.
So you had it's taken a while for you to get this book, hasn't it? You had some delays with postage, was it, or a delivery company?
We don't really know why the office copy has not arrived yet. We don't know. I still expect it. I still expect the office copy, but yeah, I'm like in general the whole book took so much in terms of like lifespan, but I think it's really beautiful that I could accomplish this project, and in a way it allowed me to be complete at this stage of life in a way, as now I will just move forward to some new projects connected with literature, also Victorian one literature. But it's been a fascinating journey, really fascinating.
Okay. Aleksandra, just to drill down more into the book's subject, can you talk about the impact of cultural tradition that the female literary writers had in Victoria Britain? I mean, how were female writers treated in comparison to the male writers of the day?
Well, of course, thank you so much. It's a really good point and a wonderful point to discuss. So, of course, first of all, Victorian novel as such developed the novel itself started developing in 19th century. It was invited into the domestic sphere for the first time more officially, and this allowed women to reach for the novel as such and read for pleasure, which was still, of course, it was partly criticized as some kind of redundant activity, but it became present in women's life and in domestic life of families. In 19th century, there were those circulating libraries appearing, and it became, we could call it nowadays like a trend. Right? It was trendy to gather and read, even though women were criticized for doing that still sometimes. And the same with writing, of course. That's why we have so many female writers who would just adopt some kind of nicknames or different names while publishing. But it's quite interesting because recently I was reading an article which argued that in the Victorian age, in 19th century, women writers were growing like in numbers, like they would keep on creating fiction, writing fiction, and there were more and more female writers, and it would continue until a certain point when, like nowadays, from the statistics, it turns out that women writers are still becoming a minority when it comes to fiction. It's interesting because in the past they tried to create fiction, and now it seems like they are again heading towards this minority. However, I've read that this happens because supposedly women writers moved towards non-fiction. Like they started creating nonfiction. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because yeah, we were hoping to represent women in great numbers in 19th century, and now it's when it comes to fiction and novel writing, and now it's decreasing again for the sake of nonfiction literary creations. And maybe this nonfiction can, I don't know, tell us something about the nature of the modern world or some kind of cultural sense. Quite interesting.
It is actually, yeah, because I know women readership, they make up the majority of fiction readers.
But definitely women writers nowadays are like decreasing in numbers when it comes to fiction, according to the study.
Okay.
That's quite a phenomenon.
Yeah, it is indeed. Going back to sort of the history as well of the Victorian writers, do you think this had an impact on the eventual emancipation of women in the UK? Gained full voting rights in the 1920s. Maybe these writers were forerunners for the suffragettes, Emily Pankhurst.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Yeah, again, a point which is very important, and of course, this movement and the whole idea of the suffrage did not develop like very quickly. It had to be presented as it was a kind of rhetoric of independence, but had to be presented in disguise, in a way, firstly.
Like George Eliot.
Yes, exactly, in literal disguise and also between the lines, because if it was presented openly, it wouldn't be accepted. So even when we have Mary Wollstonecraft from even 18th century and her vindication of the rights of women from 1792, it is a work in disguise, I would say, because it presents some concept of female autonomy. However, it had to be done in this special social cultural context that had to be accepted. So, for example, Mary Wollstonecraft would argue in her vindication that women should have equal rights to educate themselves. But why? In order to become a kind of a useful companion for men. And she had to present this argument because otherwise, I mean, maybe she didn't have to, it's not the right term, but she had to somehow present her idea in a subtle way. She had to offer a new thought to contribute to the discourse, but not too radically for those times, because if she said like women should be independent, they should be on their own, they should have their own lives and I don't know, businesses, whatever, she would be completely ignored probably. But because she made this point, let's educate women so they would be helpful when it comes to becoming men's companion, that was a great point. Let's educate women because they will be useful. And still women could take this education and do whatever they wanted with it. So it's like very subtle discourse developing. Yeah. And even Charlotte Bronte is a very interesting author when it comes to this discourse heading towards emancipation, because critics argue whether she was a feminist or not. And actually, I think that she was just like, for example, when we read Jane Eyre or any novel by Charlotte Bronte, there is this strong woman there, but she always hopes for this domestic life. She always hopes for a man in her life. However, she wants to be perceived as a partner. So I wouldn't say that Charlotte Bronte is this like very I don't know, radical person in her. She just wants partnership. She presents the notion of partnership in every novel she creates. So this is a very subtle discourse that kept developing throughout 18th and 19th century to liberate women in a way.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you spoke there about a couple of very, very prolific writers like Charlotte Bronte and Jane Eyre. Who is your favorite writer of that period then?
Thank you so much. So actually, I have, I would say that I have really 3 favorite writers of the period, and paradoxically, all of them are male writers, but they are also appearing in this book because they are huge advocates of women. And okay, so first of all, I adore Oscar Wilde's writing and his personality, and just him as a work of art, because he wanted to be perceived as art. He wanted to live his life as art, and I really look up to him. And then my two favorite writers would be Anthony Trollope and Wilkie Collins, and they are in the book
Okay.
because they both really somehow, I found that these two writers understood women like hardly anybody did those days. They perfectly understood where women are coming from, what is their social position, how they have to balance between autonomy and domesticity, and they really advocated and women's ideas and ideals they were hoping for. So I think that what is significant about these two writers is that they both had significant women in their lives who had a huge impact on their writing. For instance, Anthony Trollope had his mother, who was a very hardworking figure, and she really had to provide for the whole household. She created many novels which were very successful. She worked so hard because these were the circumstances of his family, and he really looked up to her, even though sometimes he felt lonely because she was working. And then he had his wife and Rose Hazeltine, and then he had this colleague or friend, Kate Field, an American lady, and she was kind of a feminist, yeah. So she really influenced Trollope, and we can see how he somehow becomes this advocate of women throughout his writing. Like in the end of in the second part of the century, we can see that he's like a feminist almost. Yeah, so we can see this progress in his writing.
Okay. Can I ask about your target audience? Is the book aimed at an academic readership or to a wider audience, so perhaps interested in the history of feminism and leaders and women writers?
So much. So the book is dedicated to every reader who reads literature. And I was hoping at least to write it in such a way. But of course, it is an academic discourse, but I hope that it's presented in a way. And actually, what is also, I wanted to create a work which would be different from previous works, in the sense that I wanted to create a work that describes Victorian and Neo-Victorian novel through the prism of the female character, because I've noticed that there are no books or works presenting that, only concentrating on female characters. And also, as a technique, as a methodology, I didn't use feminism. I used intertextuality and dialogism. So it means that there are texts upon text throughout centuries that are in a dialogue, and the conclusion I reached were exactly like, for example, the ones that feminists present. So yet I wanted to use different methods, and I wanted to concentrate only on women in order to create some kind of book work that has not been there yet. Because
original, yeah.
Yeah, just going back to Bunky a little bit, because these two genres, if you like, are miles away from each other. You're talking here about, Bunky in one respect, and then you've got this exact. There you go. So, out of the two, which is your preference? What are you more comfortable with? And I mean, I think I prefer Bunky, but what do you prefer? What is the best one for you to write and engage with and research?
Thank you so much. So Bunky is delighted that you prefer him. He's so happy. So, yeah, and so, okay, so I believe I know these books are like miles away from one another. It looks it's miles away, but I think that they complete me as a person because I am partly this and partly this. Like, yeah, it's not like I have a double personality. No, I know it looks like that, but the idea is that this is my life. Like I'm like
Yeah.
I perceive myself as this person who really loves to dive into this magical world, and I'm a childlike person. I mean, I find it that you can be mature, you can be childlike
Yeah.
at the same time. This is part of
Oh,
my
dear.
world, and then this is a huge part of my life too. I'm as an academic and just as a person who's curious. I think this is the book for everybody who's curious about because it's a literary work about literature, but also about history and culture to a large extent. It's a historical work. So I believe that this will complete me, and I don't know which one I prefer. I think that I need these two in different moments of my life. So this one is absolutely necessary to survive, especially in the modern world. Absolutely, for me and for those readers who feel the same, like they would like to find this peaceful, noble world that we all need. And I hope that through creating this, I could somehow invite even a part of this peaceful, noble reality into our world. So I continue because I need it, and I think that many of us need it nowadays. And this, I also need it for the sake of my curiosity, and for the sake I love literature and history, and I've been fascinated by these not only historical figures, women figures, but also female characters in fiction. And I think that my academic work, to a large extent, helped me to expand my skills to write this work, like definitely. And yeah, they complete each other, even if they don't look like they complete each other. And Bunky was helping me to proofread this one.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant answer.
I mean, that's inventive in your head to do the Bunky thing. It's imaginative, it's really good. But surely the research you've had to put into that other book, it must have taken you a long time to research that.
Thank you. Yes, it did. It took me, I mean, I just thought about that. My story with academia lasts over 10 years. Over 10 years. And this book is the result of all of that. Partly it's the result of my PhD thesis. And then I kept thinking about this idea and expanding it. And this idea has never ended. I could continue. I could continue writing. I think it will continue expanding throughout my life. And this is beautiful about academia, but of course, I will not hide the fact that it required a huge effort. And I believe that every academic person understands it's a tremendous effort to compile research, and at the same time, it offers a lot of joy because it's done out of curiosity, out of interest. But yeah. There are days when you have to really work hard and yeah, just to create a work like this. Yeah, it's for everybody. Yeah, for every scholar or scientist. And but I think that both of them are very important, both aspects of creation.
Both hugely impressive. Aleksandra, I'm just going to go off on a tangent. We mentioned in our last chat how quickly your social media profile was building. On your Twitter, you've only been on Twitter for a couple of years, and you're going to hit 20,000 followers very soon. How have you managed to get to that brilliant milestone so quickly?
So this is a question I need to ask Bunky. He's
Brilliant. Yeah.
Actually, we started.
I
started
need a Bunky.
Yeah, he will
Yeah.
explain. I started Twitter and social media in November 2021 when I published this book, and I couldn't do anything because there was a pandemic. I couldn't go just to a library or a bookstore and meet readers. I thought I really want to tell somebody about it, and I was scared of social media. But I started Twitter in 2021 November, and I was surprised because I quickly noticed that there's a really beautiful community of writers, of readers. There are wonderful people out there, and it made me think of this comparison between Twitter, for example, social media, Twitter, and a street. Like we walk through the street, and you meet different kinds of people, but it's your choice with whom you meet, and you don't have to engage with every kind of person. And here, it's exactly like this. I believe the community is brilliant. If you meet this community, so I don't know. I have no idea how it happened, but I'm just myself. I just try to be the person I am. I don't know, with my students on Twitter, Bunky as well. So I don't know. I think this is the only thing I do.
Well, look at your tweets. They're always positive. They're always cheerful. They're always nice, magic. There's a magic aspect to them with Bunky involved as well.
So much. Yeah, I think that Twitter in this sense can be a very uplifting medium. I've noticed that there can be a very uplifting and very valuable content. I mean, it's like the internet with Twitter, it's like with everything. It can allow us to create really beautiful things if we want to. So I try to do that. And share with others what I feel, what I think. The same about Bunky. I want to share Bunky's life with the readers, with friends, with the writing community, because he's here to uplift others. So he's very active on Twitter, and he didn't engage this week very much because he was busy with me at work. But he's here and trying his best to be present there. And we really, Bunky, we really, all of us, we really appreciate every kind, wonderful person we've met there. We've made really, I think, lifelong friends. It's beautiful.
That's superb.
Can I just ask you about your publisher? How supportive was your publisher with your current works? Did you have to push them into it, or were they really supportive and helpful, and they pushed you maybe?
Thank you. So both of my, I don't know, I have a huge luck. I have huge luck in this respect. Both of my publishers are really supportive. So Bunky and the Walms was published by Whip and Stock, Resource Publications imprint, and this company, this publishing house, is really wonderful people involved in the publishing process. It was my first book, so I was completely, it was the journey into the unknown for me. And they were really helpful. They were really helpful and friendly, and we are still all the time in touch. And they are really always helpful, friendly. It's a huge joy. And this book, Women's Literary Portraits in the Victorian and Neo-Victorian Novel, was published by Roman and Littlefield. And actually, it's been a very fascinating journey for me because it's an academic book. So the publishing process was slightly different, and I have a very good experience with this publishing house, with the persons who are guiding me, who are supporting me through this process. So and we are also in touch. So I think the experience overall it's very positive for me. So I feel supported.
I think you're really lucky that you've got two different publishers. Is that right? One for Bunky and one for.
Yeah, we haven't had that before, have we?
Amazing.
It is, yeah.
I think that's amazing. I don't think we've had that before, Terry. Have
No,
we?
no, not at all. No, first one with
You know,
Aleksandra.
yeah, one author, two publishers. That's incredible. You know, yeah.
You know why that happened? Because this book, okay, I wrote it for every reader. I really tried to adjust it in this way, but it's not like very painful or tiresome to read. But I hope to make it very interesting. I hope so, that it's an interesting journey for every reader. But nevertheless, it's an academic book.
Yeah.
So it is because this publisher, I selected this publisher firstly without knowing the publisher well. First, because we have this special rule in academia in Poland that you are supposed to publish a monography with one of the publishers on the special ministerial list.
Oh.
And there is this huge list that you receive, and there are points.
Yeah.
And each publisher has points that the ministry offered. And of course, you want to publish with the publishing house that has the greatest number of points, because then your academic career will develop and so on and so forth. I'm not a huge fan of points, really. I just do it from my heart, but this is the reality. We have to cover points. So I selected this publisher because the publisher was there with points. And I'm not disappointed at all, because the journey was fantastic, and this publishing house is really brilliant, full of supportive people, individuals who really love literature, and also I'm very happy with what we achieved overall. The book in its visual layout, in its content. I was even thinking recently that this is exactly how I imagined the pages, the color,
Yeah.
everything. So I'm just feeling very lucky.
That's brilliant. That's
Excellent.
absolutely amazing, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. Aleksandra, final question from me. And we know Bunky and the Fairy Princess. Would you want to introduce Bunky's other friends?
Oh no, I didn't. I haven't. Thank you. So, okay, so this is reindeer. It's very important. This is really on the cover as well.
Oh yeah.
Reindeer is only a friend whom I didn't make myself, but I bought him. But we love him so much. It's very important. And then I made some other characters. So we have Bunky, the Bunky Princess.
Yep.
This is Plum, the little wolf adopted by Bunky on the Christmas side.
Oh my
wearing his poncho, just like in the book.
Yeah.
And this is Morris, the Bunky Princess's cat. He appears in the novel.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And here is Bunky's cousin Rodney in his shoe. They have a new shoes collection now.
Yeah.
He's wearing a special bow for this interview today, Bunky as well. He's wearing a sweater made by my mom made his sweater. So he's a very important cousin in the novel. He's the cousin everybody's dreaming about, because he really is so selfless and loving towards Bunky and really helpful. So he's standing next to Bunky. And I also wanted to show you, we also have Bunky and the Bunky Princess mascots for the readers who'd like to buy
brilliant.
Wow, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yes. So this is the effect of my cooperation with Duo Toys and the Very Best Logic, and we created these Bunkies. So every reader can. So there are many Bunkies in my place here.
Yeah. Brilliant.
That's absolutely amazing.
It is.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some fantastic imagination. I don't know what's going on in your head, but it's really good.
It is. Yeah. Magic. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's like mechanism, but you want to defend yourself against some gloomy parts of current world or life, and then in safe framework of this magic and goodness, and it becomes your reality. And that's why I wrote this book, Bunky and the Walms.
Yeah, it certainly is magical. Aleksandra, the time's caught up with us, but maybe we can have a chat when the Bunky and the Walms Part 2 is released. Have another chat.
Of course, with pleasure. I would be honored to come with all my Bunkies. And I would be very happy to come and join you again, because every time we chat, I'm delighted to chat with you, and so is Bunky and the Bunky Princess and all of my friends. So I would be honored to do that.
Brilliant. As we are delighted to be chatting with you. But for now, Aleksandra, thank you very much. It's been a delight chatting with you once more.
So much for having me, for having all of us. Like, all of us.
Yeah, thanks. And it's great to meet the family.
Yeah.
So much. We're so happy to meet you too after this time. Chat with you again. I'm looking forward to the future chat.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Definitely,
on that note, well, we'll say bye and take care, and thanks again, Aleksandra.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bunky.
Thank you. I hope to see you.
Thank you.